Testing, testing, 1, 2. So I went through another. I went through another OBS. So in order for me to get to you all, because I don't know if the sound. I think the sound should be good. So I'm going to check to make sure the sound is good. I think if things was getting a little bit too good for them, right? So let's see what's going on. Can y'all hear me? Is the sound well? I hope it is. Okay, the sound is good now. I can see it. So great. Let's get back to where we started. If you have any questions, please put it in the group. Now, so what we were addressing, I'm going right back into it. Jurisdiction. So what happens is the jurisdiction of the Masonic lodges is how they began to control the country. But first they had to acquire lands. And these lands were acquired through what you will call organic acts. These organic acts are acts that Congress had created to take control over lands that they found or they discovered that belonged to the indigenous Africans and some of the natives that were already on the lands. And they received these lands through duplicitous fraudulent activities, particularly the Yazoo land fraud. But mind you, George Washington had control or had to maintain control over this Atlantic to Pacific Ocean, the lands between, because he was given orders by his overlords, these Pleiadian beings. And as I just was reading in I was reading the submission from one of his friends or colleagues by the name of Adam. Pardon me. Let me get the name correct. Anthony Sherman. Anthony Sherman was responsible for writing this, recalling his events or recalling the events that took place. And so let me just pick up where I left off. So this Pleiadian woman that he met saw at Valley Forge, this mysterious woman, said the same mysterious voice to him, "Son of the Republic." Voice as before she said, "Look and learn." At that moment, he beheld a dark, shadowy being like angel, standing, or rather floating in midair between Europe and America. Now, remember I told you that the manifest destiny, when you look up manifest destiny, you'll see this woman floating in midair. And she was traveling from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And their entire doctrine of manifest destiny was to lay out the blueprint of the Americas the way they had received it from these Pleiadian beings. And this is the account of what he had to do, right? He got a shadowy being like an angel standing or rather floating in midair between Europe and America, right? Dipping water out of the ocean into the hollow of each hand, he sprinkled some upon America with the right hand, while with the left hand he cast some on Europe. Immediately a cloud rose or raised from the countries and joined in mid-ocean. For a while it remained stationary and then moved slowly westward until it enveloped America in the murky folds. Sharp flashes of lightning, remember that lightning, gleamed through it at intervals, and I heard the smothered groans and cries of the American people. A second time the angel dipped water from the ocean and sprinkled it out as before. The dark cloud was then drawn back to the ocean, in whose heaven, or whose leaving, right? Pardon me. Whose heaving follows. I sank from view. A third time I heard the mysterious voice saying, Son of the Republic, look and learn. I cast my eyes upon America and beheld the villages and towns and cities springing up after another until the whole land from the Atlantic to the Pacific was dotted with them. So this account is the account that one of the accounts that he had with these beings, and how they had told him how they had to manifest the destiny. And the reason they were so adamant about controlling America and controlling the Africans of the diaspora was to carry out this order. Now, when you read one of the books written by our father, our heavenly father, our president, our chief, he explains that George Washington was in contact with these beings, right? And this mitochondria DNA, or the mitochondrial DNA, 18 plus 18 plus 1. In verse 41, he says, the presence of Kamau Pleiadians of Taha Earth and their collaboration with modern governments has been speculated for years. George Washington, who left many clues in Masonic prints, and these Masonic prints are throughout his, when you look at his Masonic aprons, you'll see, when you look at his Masonic aprons, you'll see these, which you'll see what you call these symbols and signs of the Pleiadian star system. You'll see symbols and signs of Jacob's ladder. You'll see symbols and signs of crafts. You'll see that within these extraterrestrial symbols on his Masonic apron. One is in Philadelphia, and one is in the Masonic Museum. Now, I'm not sure if you all can chat. Can someone leave something in the chat where you say, yeah, I can be heard? Because literally, I had to go through another source in order to get this streaming to y'all, because the microphone on YouTube just stopped working. I don't know why it stopped working, but that's what happened. Well, we're going to continue, and I've yet to learn how this works, but let's just continue. And so what happens is this. There's something they call the Mississippi, or the Organic Acts for Territories of the United States. This right here, you see, this book has many organic acts, and these organic acts is how they took organic territory, land, and moved it into the corporate entity or this government structure to control it and implement their jurisdictions over the individuals who were on the lands themselves. Now, Georgia had committed fraud in order to obtain certain lands. Thank Tawatek. Georgia had committed certain fraud to obtain certain lands, right? Okay. And what happened is they claimed all the way from the Atlantic to the Mississippi, all of the lands between the Oconee River, and we went through this last episode, through the Mississippi. And they created four companies took claims of the lands and sold it throughout the world to about 60,000 different European settlers who were planning to come into the Americas. Georgia claimed lands, your land. This is the land that our father, Dr. Malachi Z. York, brought us back to, that they were aware of his plan in order to build a nation, because the lands and by which Georgia had claimed, they illegally did it through a particular Yazoo land fraud. And because of that, they had signed it into law, and it was rejected by the Supreme Court because they didn't hold rightful title. And in 1803, the U.S., because they had to manifest their destiny, agreed with Georgia to say, listen, we can't let these Nuwaupians, these Negroes, these Africans of the African Americans or Africans in America are these individuals who we see as property. We can't allow them to control this land. So they agreed to buy the land from Georgia, which was an illegal sale because Georgia didn't have title. This is one of the secrets of the U.S. This is one of the secrets that they keep hidden in the Masonic Museum in Alexandria, Virginia on the 5th floor. This is what I'm trying to get you to all understand, is that they do not own that land. You are the rightful controllers of Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, which is the land of your nation. And in order for you to be free, in order for you to to survive what's about to take place with this government shutdown and with all of the things that's happening in America, you're going to have to you're going to need a nation to attach yourself to, and that nation is the Nuwaupian nation, the United Nubian Nation, the United Nuwaupian Nation. Right? We're known as Sabaeans because that is our culture. We're known as Nuwaupians because that is our mind. There's a three-part there that you have to understand as it relates to what we are called and reintroduced to by our father, by our president, that gave us the affirmation, that has given us the affirmation in order for us to free ourselves. It's a do-it-yourself solution. No one is going to be able to free you from what is about to take place other than yourself. And you're getting fair warning because the time is at hand and you don't have a lot of time. So you have to acknowledge you are a part of a nation that has 6.77 million acres of land, million acres of land in the southeastern area. That you are literally the claimants to that, and you will claim it. We have claimed it, and we do have control over it. We will have control over it, though the Caucasoid and his system has, yes, they built their structures, they built their governments, but these are illegal governments. The Georgia government is an illegal entity. It doesn't exist on paper legally. It's a fraudulent entity. The U.S. in collusion, brought lands that they didn't own from Georgia in 1803 in the 1803 land cessions. And in 1803, the U.S. gave Georgia the ability, so-called, to create 2 additional governments to control your land. And it sounds like something from a movie, but this is, if you remember the movie National Treasure, you remember that they were all involved with the paperwork and the secret symbols that was Nicolas Cage played. And if you watch the movie again, look at the movie, you'll see that it had to do with the symbols on the Declaration of Independence that had to do with masonry, and the treasures by which they found in a secret chamber is the same room or chamber that's found in the Masonic Lodge in Philadelphia in the northeast corner. They have a lodge there that was built in the 1800s. The same lodge that William Penn was affiliated with that created jurisdiction over Pennsylvania. The same affiliation that George Washington had that created a jurisdiction over Washington, D.C. And all of these Euro-Masons created jurisdictions over these states. And they put the Polish in place in a part of their lodges to police you. They put the Irish in place in order for the IRS to tax you, and they had the Scottish in place for the control and the jurisdictional legislative claims or the laws that they would implement when they went from the lodges into their capital city. That's why I said most of the lodges, when you look at the lodges in the state capitals, when you look at each capital city of each state, there's a lodge next to the city hall. And the reason it's a lodge next to the city hall is because, you remember the movie, right? There's a reason there's a lodge next to the city hall is because they went from the lodges into their legislative branches and committees, created laws, and then created a jurisdiction. This is why they have no jurisdiction over you. Because you are not a part, you were not written into their constitution. Now, let me give you a little legal tidbit so you can understand what I'm saying. Jurisdiction is authority, is the claims of authority to do anything against your body or the land that you live on. If I can presume authority over you, then you'll listen and do exactly what I said. They presume their authority over you through these claims of jurisdictional control. And so they say, okay, well, this person has a warrant in Missouri, right? They have a warrant in Missouri. So they give a jurisdictional consent to come pick you up from another state. They transfer jurisdictions. Well, how is these jurisdictions laid out? They're laid out in a square. A square of what? The square of the Freemasonic lodges. How is that done? It's done through order. What is order? Court orders. Order in the court. Masonic orders. A society built by these European Masons that are responsible for creating the laws. When they say secret societies, all you're saying is a society that has secrets or the ability to create the laws of the system in order to control the people by which are part of the system. But if the system is built on fraud and corruption and human trafficking, the system is not a just system, and therefore they can't have perpetual control over a group of people, you all colonial people, who have been subjugated to foreign rule. Therefore, because of that, you have a right to claim your own nation. And let me tell you how you're not even a part of the United States. You can't be a part of the United States because they never expected you to be or never acknowledged you to be a part of the United States. And this goes into what they consider citizenship. Now, citizenship is the only way they can claim jurisdiction over you. If you claim to be a citizen of the U.S. or citizen of the state of New York or citizen of the state of Missouri, citizen of the state of Tennessee, they ask you, are you a citizen? Yes or no? You say yes, whatever the case, fine. Then that means you hold so-called citizen, but it's a dual. Let's say it's a what do you call? It's a specific name for a contract that is forced upon you, right? When you look at, say for instance, when you are claimed to be a citizen or want citizenship, which you're forced into because it's not something that you request, the law says that in order for you to interpret a document, we're talking about the Constitution now, and I'm giving you the jurisdictional claims that the Mukasu claims they have over you. When they say you are a citizen, that the citizen receives rights and benefits that we the people, according to the preamble, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. What did they do? They to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense and domestic, and promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves. First, you have to establish who we the people are. We the people are the colonialists. So the preamble sets out who the people are that are in reference to in the constitutions of the United States, because this is how they bring you in their court. They say we have jurisdiction over you because of the Constitution. We have jurisdiction over you because you're a citizen. But what if the Constitution doesn't involve you? The Constitution does not have you inside of it as a citizen. So if it doesn't have you inside of it as a citizen, and it doesn't have you inside of it as receiving the rights and securing your blessings of liberty, then they can't apply it to you when they want to bring you into their courts or try you in a court of law, because you're not written in the Constitution as an equal person that's protected by the Constitution. So they play a game with you that says when you have constitutional rights, Fourth Amendment rights, Fifth Amendment rights, you don't have constitutional rights because you're not written in the Constitution as a person that will receive the benefits of the Constitution, because the Constitution was for we the people, which excluded you. And you know it excluded you because inside of the Constitution, you're written as a person, a people who they substituted that word for slave. Pardon me. They substituted slave for persons. And slavery is written in 7 articles within the Constitution alone. You'll see it written in there. Right? And I'll give you the articles, right? So when you look at the preamble, if they say we own black people, we have Africans, we have indigenous, you are part of us as citizens, that's why we can bring you into court. You ask them, where are you in the Constitution as a citizen? That's how you challenge their jurisdiction. When they try to bring you into a place and say, well, we're trying you for this crime because you are a citizen. How are you a citizen in this document? Because are you a part of the people? They would have to say no. Were you a writer of the Constitution? Was the intent of the drafters of the Constitution, did they include you in here as equal to the Caucasoid, as equal to white men? No. It was the union of these colonists who came together at the time. It literally says as distinct members of separate political communities into one political family whose power for certain specific purposes was to extend over the whole territory of the United States. And the intentions of that was to control you and to see you as merchandise. So you would never be seen as a citizen within the Constitution. You would never be accepted as a citizen in their country. You would never be accepted as a citizen in their system because the drafters didn't intend for you to be. So they can't amend it and change it and say, well, now later we accept them as that because the Supreme Court, their Supreme Court says that you can't change the intent of the drafters. If the intent of the drafters was to exclude you as an equal person and see you as property, then every time they bring you into their courts, every time they arrest you, they arrest you as property. And that's where the challenge comes in. How do they challenge you as how would they acknowledge you as a citizen if their drafters didn't see you as a citizen? And literally in Judge Taney, right? Excuse me. The constitutional articles speak to this point. Let me give you an example. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1, the importation of such persons, where you were not supposed to tax, the importation of slaves. They used such persons there because the drafters didn't want to offend the Northerners when they were creating the Union. So they removed slave and put import of such persons. And they said that these such persons, the importation would end in 1808. So they saw you as property in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3. 3/5 of a person was in reference to you as a slave. So they didn't see you as a citizen. They saw you as property. Article 1, Section 9, Paragraph 4. They would tax 3/5 of a person, which was you, counting you as 3/5 of a person, because the South needed more representation, right? As smaller states, the smaller states needed more representation in Congress because larger states had more population, so there wasn't an equal balance. So they needed to create a system where they will only count you as 3/5 of a person and as property. That's in Article 1, Section 9, Paragraph 4. Article 5, Section 2, Paragraph 3, there's a fugitive slave clause there. That is when the protection of property, you traveling to another state, that in the event that you went to a free state, so-called, that the federal government would allow a person who owned an ex-slave pick you up and bring you back to the owner because you weren't considered free as a fugitive. You were considered property and therefore didn't have the rights to be protected by their Constitution. Article 5 also prohibited any amendment of the slave import, meaning that when you imported slaves, then they tried to tax it. They said they wouldn't allow it to be amended. This is all in their Constitution. So by no way are you in there documents or in their system as a citizen. So where and who and how are you a citizen of what nation? You have to claim the Nubian nation as yours. In order for you as a people to be free, the Father implicitly says this in his book that he's written of actual facts called Takwam un Shalal and Nunnunya, which is, right, a nation of our own. Takwam un Shalal and Nunnunya, a nation of our own. It says, you, the United Nuwaupian Nation, right, the Yamasee tribe, which is an African, the original African people. So if you claim that you want to be indigenous, you claim you want to be a part of that, you still are an African by seed. You don't take an apple from Africa or seed, and if you plant it in another part of the world, it doesn't change the origin of the seed. You still are an African. Because you were moved or you traveled to an indigenous land or another land and set your seed there, it doesn't mean that you're not an African. You have to be acknowledged as an African. You have to accept that as an African. So when you read this, and he says it in verse 23, you, the Nuwaupian nation, nation of Yamasee, the original African people of this Kawak Taha planet Earth, who were once lost from your own kind, are free and will be free forever now that you have your very own what? 1. Ranam. 2, which is your name, Nuwaupians, Sabaeans, or Nubians. 2, Saka, land, Nuwuapia, right? Your lands is in this southeastern area that you make claims to, that we will make claims to after you come together and acknowledge yourself as a national. Everyone should be becoming a national. Everyone should be able to acknowledge your own nation because you're not a part of any nation. That's why they don't accept you there. That's why you keep getting slapped upside your head. That's why you keep getting beat up. That's why you keep getting arrested. That's why you keep getting incarcerated. That's why you keep getting killed in the streets. That's why you have, and now that the government is shut down, when it hits the fan, what will you do? Are you going to wait for the last minute? Are you going to wait for the last minute to try to come together? You have to do it now. This is the podcast. This is the actual facts that we are responsible for guiding you to the Father in order for you to acknowledge him as your president, in order for you to vote, in order for you to claim your own nation. This is the reason they had arrested him, because he was divulging these secrets that you own the land. And he moved us onto the capital seat, the capital territory, in order for us to erect an obelisk. And when you see the obelisk in Washington, know that that obelisk was a radio antenna. And that radio antenna was directing them to their overlords, to their gods. And you'll see that illustrated in figure 14 of this mitochondria book. You'll see the illustration of Washington Monument. I'll give y'all all the information. Yes. Email me at the United Nubian Nation at Gmail. For all of the information, it will be in the description. You'll see it there. And for those who want to invite, someone said something about Sonetta and other people. I don't have a problem with invite or giving them this information, because they all should be a part of the Nubian Nation. You all will have no choice after a while when things hit the fan and you really see what Dr. Malachi Z. York was responsible and is responsible for gathering his people under one umbrella, because you're going to need it in these last days and times. It's no joke. This is not a game. When Babylon falls, it's something that you must be aware of. It's something that you must take heed to. It's something that you have to understand, that they locked you in a system that with their gods was responsible for controlling their layout of America, squared off within these states, jurisdictional control through their lodges. And when our Supreme Grand Master showed up And we erected our obelisk on our land to show our sovereignty that our overseers, our deities gave us in this day and time to rule in this cycle, this 24,000 year cycle. And we're responsible for ushering in and teaching the new beings or Nubians, Nuwaupians, in order for you to be free. The liberation of our doctrine, it liberates the mind as well as the body. This is the body being liberated now. You have to have your being become liberated and unified under one nation. There is no other way. You can read as many scrolls as you want. You can read as much actual facts to liberate your mind, and it will heal you from the inside out. But then the physical body has to be done. You have to place discipline involved in order to come together as one, in order to say, this is our nation, leave us alone. We are no longer a part of your system. You never accepted us in your system. You didn't write us into the Constitution. It was for your people, we the people, right? As you wrote in the preamble, right? When you look at it, even the judges and the court systems acknowledge that the preamble sets forth by whom it was formed for what purposes, right? And for whose benefit and protection. It does not define, this is Judge Taney speaking from the Supreme Court about the preamble and the Constitution. It says that it set forth by whom it was formed and what purpose, and for those benefit and protection. It does not define what description of persons are intended to be included in these terms, or who should what? Be regarded as citizens, as one of the people. But there are two clauses. There are two clauses in the Constitution which points directly and specifically to the Negro race as a separate class of people, and show clearly that they were not regarded as a portion of the people or citizens of the government then formed. You are not a part of their government. You are not a part of their system. So why are you stateless? Why are you not claiming your own nation? You have to do this. Everyone on the planet has a nation, but you're looking around trying to be accepted, and the Father, our president, is here for you. We're here for you, organizing, and took the necessary steps to put your feet on the land, on your territory, erected your structures, implemented your institutions, your educational institutions, your defense ministries, your judicial ministries. We had all of that, and the devil and his Caucasoid agents who wanted you to think that Dr. Malachi York has something to do with some case or some charges of transporting minors, etc., to distract you from what your goal was, to be prepared for this day and time. 25 years, actually longer than that, 34 years, right? 1992 was the year of our independence. Excuse me. 1992, June 26 to June 26, 2002 was 10 years. To 2012 was 20 years. 2022 is 30 years. 2025, right, is 33 years. This year is your Declaration of Independence, where you will be celebrating independence for 33 years. Your nation would have been phenomenal at this moment. Imagine how you would have been thriving and living had you continued in your steps of liberation, coming together and not dividing amongst each other, creating chaos and confusion, separating each other from here, listening to the devil, attacking your own president, attacking your own people, Moors against the Hebrews, Hebrews against the Christians, Christians against the Muslims. All of you are fighting amongst each other. You don't have anything for yourself. You haven't built anything for yourself. You don't have anything for your children's future. You don't have anything for your elders. The only thing for your elders as they get old, any institution for them to exist. You don't have any structures, any education. You complain about your education system. You won't write your own textbooks. You won't hire and bring your own teachers together to teach our children the proper education, but you want to complain about the education system. You want to complain about their infrastructure. You want to complain about the police when you can create your own police that will police and be of service to the community and treat the community as one of theirs to protect and serve, as opposed to brutalize and vandalize and create chaos amongst and kill and murder. You won't create your own police system. You won't implement your own judicial system. Why can't you do that? Because you're under this Negro mentality, continuous, that you gotta ask the Caucasian for something. Those days are over. He's not going to give you anything. You're not going to have anything from him. He doesn't have anything. It's $31 trillion in debt. The government is shut down. They can't pay for the military. They can't pay for the so-called food stamps. Well, farewell, welfare, farewell to food, farewell to the black family, the structure. You have to acknowledge that's going out the window. The education system is shot. The schools are being shot up by fluid, you call genderless children and individuals who can't tell men want to be women, women want to be men. You don't know what direction society is going. It's corrupt. It's not healthy, right? You got social media that's controlling the minds of people. AI now is creating all types of lies and belief systems. You can't connect with the real person, right? So now you have a corrupt and fading society. And now when our Father, now that you see what he was trying to do, right, give you a nation of your own, build something of your own, the devil convinced you, like he does every other time, to attack and kill and crucify your own saviors. And you say, oh, we want Joshua to return. Everyone say they want Jesus to return. No, you don't. Because the moment he returns, you're going to do the same thing you did 2,000 years ago. You're not going to accept him the way he walked the planet. Are you going to accept him as a regular being, as a man walking and talking and try to correct things and try to transform your being? Are you going to accept him? No. Because the moment someone comes and says they have information for you to liberate you, to free you, to transform you, to connect you to the heavens, to connect you to your deities, to give you 1,000 books to read, 1,000 books to digest on every subject imaginable, above and beneath the sun, on every series, every Christ series, UFO series, extraterrestrial series, questions and answers series, debate series. You all seen the book list that I sent out of books that's available. I know you were astounded by the amount of books that this one being has written. Now when he comes to teach and address the problems of a troubled world, you reject him because he doesn't come the way that you want him to come. You want him to come out the sky on some horses with wings and a sword and some Thor and these fantasy stories that you've been watching from his lies on television and movies. You want your savior to come out the sky with a crown and horses galloping on air with 1,000 chariots and coming and chop up people and kill people and chop the head of the devil and hold it up, and you say, oh, everybody screams and yes, that's what you want. But our ancestors, our deities don't come that way. They come in a way to relate to you. They have to come in physical form. And as an African, you're going to get an African, a black savior. You're going to get someone that looks like you, walks like you, talks like you, able to relate to you and give you information for yourself that's not any other race. But what do? You want Jesus to return. The Christians say Jesus come. When a being comes that's responsible for saving you, you reject him. That's responsible for teaching you 40 and 50 years. You have to be taught 40 and 50 years in order for you to be convinced, and you still won't do anything. And then you wonder why the time is running out. This is where we are. You have literally about a year to go. I'm not joking. I was given a time frame, 2027, right? 2027. You have to be able, okay, all these people coming in want to argue, we're not African, we're American. We're not having those silly arguments, because when you get offline, you're going to still have the same problems that anyone else has on the planet. Being a so-called American is not going to make you more money. You're going to get abused and beat up like everyone else. All in the devil's face, trying to be accepted by him, claiming you a Native American. When they look at how the Native Americans live in the West. Go to Oklahoma and see how they live. Go to the Midwest and see these reservations. It's more drugs, more crimes, more prostitution, more uneducated children on these reservations than anywhere else, worse than the ghettos of America. So you're not saying anything slick. Y'all think you could come and have an argument and let's say a conversation, and you try to prove a point because you want to be accepted. Okay, you get removed if you start just saying really ridiculous things, right? What makes Africa, because Africa is the heart of the universe right now. Africa is the source of all the wealth on the planet. One country in Africa can feed the whole world for 5 years. Look at the stats, and that's the Congo. You don't have those type of issues of the Caucasoid there. And when it's time for us to be liberated, and this is the doctrine to do it. And we don't need American Negroes trying to argue something and trying to be a part of a system that doesn't respect you or accept you. 400 years, you still want to be accepted as someone. It's just ridiculous. We don't need that foolishness. It's too late for that. So my point, yes, 1 year. When I say 2027, I'm saying we have 1 year to gather the 144,000, teach you all who you are, right? Through this podcast, through the methods by which I've been blessed to have a platform that teaches the words of the Father, His Excellency, Dr. Malachi Z. York, Partner Babianun, where we teach you. If you look at our past episodes, you'll see this is the doctrine that is waking up the people. If you look in the comments, you'll see people are just literally their brains are being transformed because they're getting this right reasoning and right wisdom, right knowledge. And the reason, right, let's address who we are as Nuwaupians. Nuwaupu is the mind, right? Nuwaupu or Nuwaupians is how you think. So if you hear the word, for those that are new to the channel, and when you hear what is a Nuwaupian is a being who deals with a specific science. Because you've been taught how to think by the Caucasoid and every other race, you've been given a specific method of thinking which is based upon beliefs. And you believe things. You want to believe that the world will turn out a specific. You want to believe in their gods. You want to believe in their Qur'ans. You want to believe in their Bibles. You want to believe in their fairy tales and their stories and their histories and the mythologies and things that they've given you. You want to believe in their superheroes. You want to believe in their holidays. When you are a Nuwaupian or you deal with reasoning, it's not something that you convert to. No Nuwaupian is converted. You're born a Nuwaupian because you're born with reasoning in your mind. You think in a reasoning manner automatically. It's something that's in your genetics. It's the way you learn. When you learn, it's through reasoning. The process of deductive reasoning. There's many types of reasoning that's used in the brain in order for a child to develop. Trial and error. If I do this, then this will happen. If I don't do this, then that won't happen. So I'll do this. That's reasoning. That's something that you practice naturally until you accepted the belief systems of foreigners, of Arabs, of Christians, of Greeks, of Mesopotamians. You want to be a Hebrew over here, the Israelites, and they were kept in bondage in Mesopotamia. Everybody you cling on to, you were in bondage by. How are you going to be a Hebrew Israelite and they were kept in bondage early in the late BC, the first century, for hundreds of years? The second temple was built; it was also destroyed. They were kept in bondage. You were kept in bondage by the Assyrians. You were kept in bondage by the Babylonians. Then you fall up under the Muslims. The Muslims kept you in bondage. How can you be a Muslim but you convert to Islam? Everything you convert to, you believe is the way, but then they enslave you and keep you in bondage. Look up how many times, how many years the Muslims kept Africans enslaved. 1,100 years. Slavery wasn't just abolished in Saudi Arabia until 1950. We'll do a whole lecture on Islam soon. But right now, it's the liberation of your nation. You have to learn to reject foreign doctrines that keeps you in bondage and think as a Nuwaupian and think in reasoning so you can begin to articulate what is factual. And stop always believing you're the only race that anything somebody throws at you, you open your mouth. They throw Santa Claus, they throw the God in heaven and angels with wings and hell's in the ground in the earth with fire that's going to burn you up, but your body's in a coffin. They throw devils at you with red skin and pitchfork in the tail. He's the devil. But you see people doing evil on the planet. You never see this being doing evil. You see human devils, but you accept that. Then they throw you Santa Claus. They throw you the Tooth Fairy. They throw you Wonder Woman and Batman and Spider-Man and all their superheroes. You accept it, right? You accept their images of Jesus. You accept that you open your mouth for everything that somebody give you. Stop opening your mouth to foreigners. Close your mouth and think with reasoning to benefit your own race. And as a Nuwaupian, this is how we think. Our Father had taught us to do for, of, and by each other so that we can progress and stop accepting foreign religions. Another thing, when you talk about Wu Sabat as a Sabaean, that's a science. That is as a part of our culture, acknowledging our heavenly ancestors that come from Sabatat, the heavens, or Sahu, Orion, and Sirius, right, which are star systems, and that most of the religious doctrines come from Wu Sabat because they acknowledge a specific star. We held the sciences of the stars because we were able to calculate the cycles of time. We were able to record the cycles of our cosmological clock. We were able to give you definite, pinpointed, accurate identification of various star systems and galaxies within the heavenly abode. We had stargates. We understood the precession. We understood the rotation of the planet and the alignment of the black holes that exist, to the holes that, to align you through the porthole to get you to another galaxy or get you to the heavens. We had those things recorded. The Najamat, which are the stars, we were Sabaeans by that because we identified with the heavens, and in the heavens, they're heavenly bodies that would guide you if you understood the cycles and what to look for. This is why the Jews use their star, six-pointed star, as one of their symbols because they acknowledge their star system. This is why the Muslims use a star and crescent, a heavenly body. The Christians use the star to do what? Follow the Messiah. To where? The star to their so-called Messiah or so-called a savior. They use stars. So Wu Sabat is a culture and a way that we live in order to align ourselves with our heavenly ancestors, Panatharu, our overseers, who are our deities, as you know, as we went over in episode 2, and we'll rehash it or go over it again, the origins of creation, right? We'll address that in another episode. So Nuwaupu is how you think. Wu Sabat is your culture and your way of life as a Sabaean. Nubian is your blood. It's a mixture because you're a mixed race or mixed group of people, a specific mixture in the North America. So you're not the same as everyone else. That's why you hear those various names. It's not a religion. The way you think is Nuwaupu. The Father, our Heavenly Father incarnated in flesh, had to teach us how to think because we were believing everything. We had to eliminate beliefs and say, you know what? Let me introduce you to your science that your ancient ancestors lived by, and that how they use the power of their mind to create. They use the power of reasoning. So when we say the United Nuwaupian Nation, or we're Nuwaupians, it means you have a message. It means you have a reasoning message. You have factual information that deals nothing with facts. That's why this podcast is the actual facts, and it's going to grow incredibly because no one is teaching facts. They all are gossiping. They all are slandering, and people are trying to wonder why they're failing because you're gossiping too much. Everything you got to say is about another person. It's about someone's job, about someone's marriage, about someone's sex life, about someone's financial status. I go in these podcasts, these places, these platforms, and they're using our names. I'm not going to say no names because I'm not going to draw attention to it, but you know the negativity that they're spewing, they're going to fail because no one wants to listen to that garbage and that trash anymore. We don't need that. The devil is doing enough of that in his own world. He has enough smoke over there. You want smoke? You claim you want the smoke until you get burned by the fire. So stay over there with it. Our people are not indulging in that anymore. You want to get people's attention? Show love. Give them factual information that's going to benefit and liberate them and bring them to the Father. Guide them to the heavens. Guide them to our way of life. Guide them to Patarak, our way. Reintroduce things to them that their soul needs and stop feeding them this trash. That's why these places, these podcasts, all these things, they're going to fade away. Watch as I talk, these coming into these next years. They're gonna run out of things to talk about. They're gonna run out of things to say. They're gonna start just being negative and what you call crashing out just to get attention because they can't keep the attention of the intellectual people that exist in the world. There's more intelligent people in the world than there are fools. It's just that the fools have been placed on a platform because they make the most money off of the ignorant. The intelligent minds is what actual facts is responsible for. We are the ones that are, because we're teaching the words of our Father, right, and doing the job by which I'm doing my job that he's told and raised me to do, to teach and get our nation together. I'm not interested in the internal affairs of what's taking place within the nation. That's not my job because you're going to have issues amongst family. You're going to have issues amongst tribe. You're going to have issues and arguments and disagreements. But the next day is you still have to nation build. Look at nations around the world. They have tribal issues. They have financial issues. They have judicial system that arrests people who are criminals and who do things that are unruly to society. That's what healthy nations do. They keep a check and balance on the justice and the injustice is done. That's the internal affairs. I'm responsible for the external activities of our nation, the formation of a nation under one umbrella, under our president, our representation to the international community. This is why you all have to be prepared to vote. And on our website, you'll be able soon, coming in 2027, you'll see it in the description, by the orders of our Father, our president, right, to vote. That's the only thing you can do together at one time. And once you do that at one time around the world, doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter how long you've been reading. You could have just been started reading yesterday, but the information resonates with you because it touches the ether in you, because as a being that wants facts, facts are universal. They're not attached to feelings. It's not about how you feel about a thing. It's what must be done for your salvation, for your freedom, for your liberty. And that's what's important. So let me get back to what we were talking about. I think I went off into the description of a Sabaean. I hope that's clear. What a Nuwaupian is, what a Sabaean, because people were asking these questions. And it shouldn't be confusing. You are all under one nation. You all are Nubians because you're mixed from, some people have West African blood. Some people have indigenous blood of Africans that came there. Some people are mixed with the people from the islands, right? Jamaicans, Barbadians, Trinidadians, right? Those are all, again, places or names of people, of places where you are, not what you are. We have an actual fact called who you are, not what you accept, that goes into that. But you remember, you have to understand, too, that there's a group of black devils and there's a group of mulattoes that are responsible for making you all hate Africa. They did that intentionally. They were bred to do that. Literally, they were bred, and they were bred using the Adamic or Adamite doctrine, as you read in Genesis, that says, "Let us make a man." The Adamites did the same thing. They also bred a man. They also bred a Negro in America. For 400 years, it took 400 years for this new Negro to be bred. That's who you all are fighting. You're fighting the mentality of this new bred Negro. And the Father goes into explaining these things in various publications. When he speaks about this new bred man that was evil, bred continuously, and was thinking continuously, he bred the evil. No, that's not true. And whoever's telling you these things are lying. You couldn't be a Nuwaupian because that's not true. I don't know if you're trolling, but that's not the case. There's people with weight. There's people with weight problem. There's people with weight problems, and there's people that just need to exercise and eat better. Nuwaupu, our doctrine teaches you how to eat better, teaches you your health issues so you can eliminate and make yourself better. It takes time, right? But it's there. All right, so these people, these guys, I don't know if you are trolling. If you come in with this disrespectful stuff, you're just getting kicked out because nobody got time for that. Okay, no problem, Demi. I'm not saying you trolling. There's just people trolling in. They want attention. These are the religious people. They hate the facts, so they come in and you can't disrupt nothing I'm doing. It doesn't matter what you say. Your little one-liners. You can't deal with who God is on the planet. But Nuwaupu is you. Nuwaupian is not again. You do not convert to Nuwaupu. It's not I read a book and I'm a Nuwaupian. That's not how that works. When you read the book, you'll realize you've always been a Nuwaupian because it's how you've been thinking. You think in a specific manner that separates you from everyone else around you. That's why people say, wow, I always thought like this. I just never knew who I could find. I always felt alone. I always wanted to question God. Always things didn't make sense. I'm blocking people because I'm not because you don't bring negativity. A part of this chat is don't bring negativity, and you're not going to be disrespectful in the podcast. I don't want disrespect here. You can take that disrespect, ignorant mentality somewhere else, but it's not accepted here. So that's why I block people, and they can watch, but they just can't place their negative words within the chat. That's why. So I hope I answered your question. And it's a function that's for that. It's called moderation. You have to moderate because people get possessed when they hear facts and they realize that the spell is lifting and their religious doctrine is being pulled from up under them. So a lot of people begin to feel insecure. So they have to fight. And that's just what happens. And after a while, they'll begin to realize that what we're saying on this Actual Facts podcast is very, very real. But oftentimes, it's a shocker to people when they hear the things that they've been given, they've been lied to, and they've been misled. And it's a tough job, but someone has to do it, right? So you either get waking up, you have to get waking up. Sometimes you got to get pulled out of the bed, and it's not a pretty sight. Some people don't like that. When you're drowning, people fight the person that's saving them. So it happens. I just don't want it to take away from our conversation. So what I'm saying, and so when you have these people who were bred, some of them were bred to distract and to take away from the Africa, which is Africa's is incredible. I don't know, it's paradise. I don't even know what to tell people. I know it's difficult to explain, because it's like speaking to a people who've been, if you've been locked in a prison your whole life. I'm gonna give you a prime example. Some people have been locked. If you grew up in a jail, imagine a person growing up in prison. Then they would never know they were in prison. You don't know you're in prison if you've never been free. So you're locked in this cage of every unclean spirit and every foul bird that's spoken of in the book of Revelations 18. It speaks about this cage that people are locked in, right? When you read the book, we'll go over Revelation soon, right? When you read it, you'll see that it speaks about being trapped in this system of every foul spirit and every unclean bird. Right? And so what happens is, if you're there inside and you've never been outside of the box, then you don't know. Everything is fine. The 3 meals a day is okay. The going back to your cell is your bedroom. So you okay with going to your cell. You're okay with sleeping in your cell like that. That's fine with you. You're okay with the guards coming to wake you up for chow or food or to get your meal. You're okay with going to watch TV amongst the other people and everything is controlled. Everything is institutionalized. So you're okay with that. And that's what it's like with our people in America. You think that's how everything is done around the world. And so when a person says, listen, there's a place where you have control over your destiny, where you don't see, like, police don't pull you over because you're different skin color, or you're not faced with racism or discrimination in every area of your life. You've been accustomed to being in an environment where everything is heightened and you're such at a heightened state of fight or flight that your stress level is always at a peak and you've never been able to thrive. You've only survived. You're only surviving. You're only able to live day by day. You can't enjoy the things that you have because every month you have to pay. You can't enjoy your house because you will lose it if you don't pay for it. Every few weeks you have bills. Do you know the stress level of working all day and having to pay bills in 14-day cycles? That's not thriving. So you don't know what it's like to live. You think you know what it's like to live, you don't. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get all our people to understand what the Father is trying to show us, that you don't know what it's like to actually live. You're only in a 30-day cycle of survival, and literally, if you do not pay your bills, it equates to death. If you do not pay your bills, it equates to starvation. If you do not pay your bills, it relates to you losing your children, losing everything. Why? Because if you don't pay your mortgage, you get evicted. If you get evicted, where are you going to eat? You can't cook because you don't have a stove. You can't bathe. You don't have a roof over your head, so you succumb to the elements. Right? You can't grocery shop. You lose your car. You can't get to work. You can't get to work. You can't get your paycheck. You can't get your paycheck. You can't eat. You can't eat. You die. All of it is surrounding you. Literally, you're working every day just to survive. And that stress level leaves you in a position where you are literally prey. You're prey because the system is preying on you. And that's why they teach you to pray. To pray to them to help you get out the situation. But the cycle continues because you're not calling on your own deities. You have to call on your own gods. Okay, so he didn't establish the Moors. He didn't do that. I see your question. Let me address some of these questions here. No, he didn't. He helped. Let me say this. I addressed this. Look at the last episode. He used the word Moor to help the Moor Science Temple, not because he was a Moor. You want him to be a part of the Moor Science Temple so you can say, see, Dr. York and his greatness was also one of us. No. He was trying to help you because you have no guidance. You didn't have the guidance because the noble Drew Ali passed away. Moors, they would have to go back. Moors, they would have to go back to Morocco. You didn't establish a land and a language for us in a specific area where we could all gather. That's not what the Moors are doing. You're trying to integrate into the system of the U.S. and be a part of the system of the United States. This is why you're filing paperwork within their courts. And I told you all before, you don't file paperwork in a domestic court as a sovereign. You file paperwork in your own courts as a sovereign, because sovereigns have their own judicial system. Nations have their own judicial system. Morocco has a judicial system. But what the Moors are doing, right? The Moors are doing is not, you're not nation building. This is a lie. Morocco is not in America. Morocco is in West Africa, right? And so you can claim that all of that is dogma. It's not factual, and it's misinformation. And I addressed this in the last episode. I suggest you go back to look at it. Morocco is not in America. The Moroccan government signed a treaty with America in the 1700s. The Treaty of Friendship and Peace was for them to dock their boats on the east coast of their country. Morocco was colonized by Spain and France. The Moroccan government there is where the Moors should be. You don't have, you're part of a religious organization. This is why you use I, self, Lord, and Master. This is why you say you're Muslim sons. You're not a nation. You don't have a language. If you had a language, what language do the Moors speak? You ask them if they don't speak Arabic because they don't know what Islam means. You ask them, they say I, self, Lord, and Master. It doesn't. It means, it comes from the root word salama. So you're not a nation. You have to have a territory. You don't have a territory demarcated. And don't show me no old maps. That's because those maps are not archived in the archive records of the U.S. When they came here, the colonialists came here, there were records of maps of particular lands, right, that were already established, and there were not Moors there. What you call Moors, Abu Bakari and Can Mansa Musa, right, in Old York, coming from Mali, they came to the Americas, but they converted to Islam. So they were not Moors by what you call a Moor. And a Moor is a description of a people. It's not a nationality. I said this and I'll say it again. Moorish is not a nationality. It is a description of a group of people who were Berbers. The Greeks used the word Morenos. The French used the word Moor, M-U-U-R. The Spanish used Mori or Mori, where you get Mauritania, Mauritius, right? These were titles or descriptions of Berbers who were traveling from East Africa to West Africa in the name of Islam to conquer in the name of their Arab authorities when they converted to the Saudi Arabian doctrine under Muhammad. That's who the Moors are. You are not in America. Stop lying to people. And you don't have a map. You don't have a land. You don't have and you definitely don't have a language. When I speak to the Moors, I ask them, the so-called Moorish brothers, a lot of them are my brothers. They're just confused because they're stuck in Noble Drew Ali's time. What the father was doing was trying to bring you all up under one umbrella because he knew the way of how to build and birth a nation. Right? So that's what I'm saying. You it's not up for argument. We're dealing with facts, not how you feel. I don't have any feeling about the people. When you deal with the facts and the documents, I just went through that. I had a whole lecture on this particular title. And I addressed all of the so-called leaders of the Moorish Science Temple that still, the reason you know they still affiliated with Islam is because they go to temples. And you have sultans. Sultans come out of Turkey, which is an Islamic country. And in front of the Aquarian Gospel, right? In the front of the American, okay, if you want to say that, you want to say he was a Moor, right? That's fine. You got that. Okay, if you want that, fine, right? So when you say more, he was helping you all, but you all didn't help him. You all didn't listen. You went off and say, oh, we're more, so that's fine. We're leaving it behind and see where it gets you. It's not going to get you anywhere. We are under the Nubian Nation. For those that getting back to what nationality is, and getting back to okay, getting back to when you call us as a nation, is a legal format by which the Father had laid this out. So, any questions? Put it in the chat, in this chat real quick, so we can. Yeah. So again, let's get back to this this American Negro, because who we're fighting. You skip. What is this? Skipping what? Okay, let's have a dialogue. What am I skipping? What do you want to know? Ask the question. Oh, you mean the video, the feed? Is that what you're in reference to? Is my feed skipping? Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. It's maybe the network. Why are there many tribal names? Because I hope the feed is skipping. Maybe so. Let me know if I'm still skipping. Let me check the network. Hopefully it gets better. Okay, so the reason why someone said many tribal names, there's many tribes in a nation. You can have any type of many tribes in certain nations. Certain nations have hundreds of tribes. So what it means is that a nation has many different tribes, and you can be affiliated with many different tribes. Go around the world, and you can go to many African nations. There may be 30 or 40 different tribes. So it just depends on how the nation was born and the various nationals or tribal members that are part of it. So it just depends. I hope that's clear. I don't have a disagreement with Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali, our father loves Noble Drew Ali. He taught us that Noble Drew Ali did great works. However, it was just for his specific time. It wasn't something that was to be forever, and it prepared us for this day and time. He had pieces of the puzzle, but it wasn't complete. So when he tied in Cherokee Nation and built the Canaanite temple and called himself Moabites, he was using biblical names. And these biblical names are not related to us as an African people. Though it worked for that time, it wasn't something that we should be pivoting on for the rest of our existence. And so the father came to clarify what Noble Drew Ali wanted to do. He knew that nationhood took land. He knew that it took a language, and he did his best to liberate his people based on what he knew. So no, we don't have a problem with Noble Drew Ali in that way. Any other questions? I think because the stream is skipping, I think I might end this. I should end this this stream until next time. Let's chime in 9 days on the 19th. I think we'll have better sound and the network will be better. Um, I hope and we can retouch on certain things, but make sure you all subscribe and like and share. And we can have a discussion across the board amongst our people because it's time. And we have to come to a common ground to make sure that we liberate ourselves because the devil is not going to have a pick when he comes to collect and he tries to destroy the rest as he goes down. He doesn't care what you call yourself. But if you're not legally protected under a nation, he don't care if you Hebrew, Muslim, Jew, whatever it is. If you're not affiliated with a nation, he's going to take you out. So the best thing for us all to do is unify and come together. And the Nubian Nation knows the way to go. Our president it's only one president. You don't find no other leader calling themselves president. Farrakhan, Noble Drive, none of them called themselves a president. Our president in chief is who he is because he knows the way. And so I'll leave it at that. Hopefully, in your comments, I'll get a better connection. In the comments, I'll connect with those that have questions, and you share it and like it, and make sure other people are aware of the Actual Facts podcast. We're going to resume on the 19th, our episode 8, which will cover. I'll put the title or the episode name or description within the community post. Also, check the emails if the United Nubian Nation to check out some of the books, the Actual Facts and Patrak that are available. I'll give you the direction of how to get them and locate them, so you'll have them for your perusal. And any questions that you have, please feel free to put it in the chat and or in the email, and I'll address it immediately. Tawakum, thank you all for joining in, and I appreciate you being great subscribers and helping the Actual Facts podcast grow. You'll see this channel grow tremendously of the next year, and I'm glad you all are a part of it. And check out the previous episodes. I'm sure you'll enjoy them as well. We had many topics we discussed, but I think it's time for us to make sure we do this nation building, which is a priority because we're running out of time. Take care.